The results from the first 8 holes at the Bekisopa 2020 drilling program are extremely good. The next slide here is the disclaimer, the forward-looking statement, and also importantly the competent person statement from our geologist Tony Truelove, who's worked with us to put all of these results together. This first slide from the 2020 exploratory drilling program, where we completed 12 holes for just on 1,100 meters. This announcement covers the results from the first 8 holes, which are in the north and central zones of the tenement. So if you look at the image on the right-hand side, drill hole Bekisopa 1 is to the north of the tenement. Then there's a 400-meter spacing to Bekisopa 2, then 600 or so meters to Bekisopa 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then nearly 1.5 kilometers before we get into Bekisopa 7 and 8, and then another kilometre or more before we get into Bekisopa 9, 10, and 11. These drill holes, numbers 1 to 8, all intersected iron ore, and the drill hole depths were between 70 and 100 meters. The magnetic survey is also shown on this image on the right with these brown lines, and where it peaks, that's the intensity of the magnetic signal where the iron ore is. Oh dear, someone's just started up their whippersnipper. Hope that's not interfering too much. The magnetic survey highlights the iron mineralized zone of some 6 kilometers, and the drill holes that we've done to date have intersected iron ore over 4 kilometers of that strike length. The analytical results from these holes, some 700 chemical assays, have shown excellent results in the iron ore mineralized zone. And the process trials that we've conducted using low intensity magnetic separation has delivered outstanding product grades. Some of the highlights from these 8-hole results are just on 7 meters at 64.7% iron, 6.9 meters at 64% iron at surface. The iron mineralized zone is 50 to 150 meters combined thickness, and in one of the holes we've got 70 meters of continuous iron mineralization grading 44% iron. Along the strike length of 4 kilometers, there is significant iron mineralization in all 8 holes from this first part of the program. So what does this mean for us all as investors in Bekisopa and Akora? It means that there is impressive scope for a significant iron resource at Bekisopa. And we've been targeting 100 million tonnes, but since we've got these results, we feel that that's going to be well and truly exceeded. And I am pretty confident that we will achieve a resource at Bekisopa of in excess of 150 million tonnes. As the knowledge has been developed through the geological work we did in 2019 and the magnetic survey, and now these drilling results, we feel quite confident that we can achieve a bigger resource target at Bekisopa than we initially thought. Processing test results in summary. The process trials, which were a first off trial using LIMS, low intensity magnetic separation, on coarse crushed 2mm composites. They have delivered exceptional results in all but one sample, which didn't achieve over 50% product grade. That LIMS test was starting with a head grade from drill core of only 13% iron. This material is unlikely to be mined in the future. However, as a first test, going from 13% iron, crushed to 2 millimeters only, and producing a near on 50% product is a pretty impressive result. The highlights from the massive and coarse disseminated magnetite, this is the box on the left-hand side. The first trial results with no optimization, okay? So this is just producing a 2 millimeter material, putting it through the LIMS and getting the results, delivered up to 68.3% iron product grade. The top category for iron products is 65% iron and the benchmark is 62. So at 2 millimeter crush, achieving a product grade of 68% iron is absolutely outstanding at an iron recovery of 89%. Those samples were upgraded from head grades from drill core of 35 to 61.8% iron and had a mass yield of 63%, with the best being at 80%. We also did some trials on the fine disseminated magnetite, and the results there was a 52% iron product grade at 87% recovery from a 26% iron head grade. Again, encouraging first pass, no optimization results. The focus for Bekisopa is very much on the massive and coarse, the massive being the outcropping material at surface and below surface, as we've seen in the drill holes, to produce a lump DSO product, and then the disseminated coarse magnetite to produce a DSO fines product. So what does this mean for Akora? It means from these first trial tests, we're able to produce a DSO iron ore product after minimal processing that includes standard crushing, screening, and magnetic separation. So the chemical assays were then put into the drill holes, an assay per meter of drill hole. And this is drill hole number 1, which was the only vertical drill hole. All the rest were at a 60-degree incline. What the results of this hole shows is that it confirms the historical trenching results by the BRGM. If you look at those results at the top of the image, 37 meters across the surface, delivering 59.4% iron, and 52 meters at 54% iron in that trench. We got at surface 6.9 meters, grading 64.7% iron. So very encouraging results and correlating well with the trenching results. And that gives us confidence down the whole strike length at Bekisopa for planning our drill core for the drill holes for the next drilling program, but also the correlation between the historical work and what we're seeing in the drill holes. On the right-hand side is some drill core taken at 58, 59 and 60 meters down this hole. And what it shows is coarse disseminated magnetite, which is the areas of gray on that drill core. The white and off-white is the calcium silicate country rock. And the objective of the upgrading, the crushing and the screening, is to separate the magnetite in this coarse disseminated category away from that country rock. Also in this drill hole here, you can see the shape of the iron mineralization below surface. It's a very good profile for an open pit mine. Initially mining the surface high-grade material, which should produce a lump product and fines. And then as you go deeper, we've got 70.5 meters continuous, grading 44% iron. So that includes the 64 at the surface, 62 a little further down, and overall average of 44%. As I said, ideal for open pit mining, and as we saw from the limb results, readily upgradable to a high grade plus 62%, maybe 65% iron product. Looking at some of the drill holes in the central zone, drill holes 4, 5, and 6, again, high grade surface mineralization, 56% iron, 57% iron, and the trenching results were 4.7 meters at 61 and 22 meters in the middle there, which we didn't drill through, at 60%. But the expectation from these drill holes is that is going to be continuing below surface. Again, some samples of the drill core from Bekisopa number 5 on the left-hand side of the image, 38 and 39 meters down, showing coarse disseminated magnetite, readily upgradable. The other good thing from these 3 holes, which have been spaced to get an idea of the width of the iron mineralization, the pinky colored images on this cross-section, it shows that there's 150 meters of iron mineralization combined across the width in this area. So that then gives us some very good confidence to estimate what the resource will be. So we're seeing iron ore over 4 kilometers. We've got widths here with these 3 drill holes of 150 meters wide, and we can see it's continuing at depths of 100 plus meters, density of 4. So clearly you can then start to work out what the resource size may be if it's continuous over that 6 kilometer strike length, which we believe it is. The processing trials were conducted at ALS laboratory in Perth, and we used the limb test. It's a very simple, long-standing test for looking at upgrading of products like magnetite. So the low intensity magnetic separation was a process. Trials were performed. Only one pass and indicated upgrading of crushing the drill core down to 2 millimeters in size. You have a vibratory screen there where you put the feed on that distributes the crushed material over the drum. The magnetic component of the iron adheres to the drum and is separated from the gangue. And that's how you then get your high grade product of iron ore. These trials are not confirming the future processing equipment. It's just the ability of the iron mineralization as a first pass on how it is upgraded. And the limb trial results were absolutely outstanding when you consider it was a first pass, it was a trial, and there was no optimization at all. When looking at the massive and coarse disseminated magnetite on the limbs trials, the image on the left-hand side shows an iron ore DSO fines product. So if we go down to that fines product, it's a lovely silvery blue, very clean magnetic looking product with -2 millimeter size there, which is a fines DSO product. The product grade of this material is 63.4%. Remembering the benchmark iron ore is 62 and high grade fines and lump is 65. If we go across to the image on the right hand side of this slide, iron ore DSO fines again, looking at the photograph, very clean metallic looking product, very little gangue in there, and a lovely silvery blue color of the magnetite. The product grade here is 68.4%, I think it is. My image is covering the numbers. Iron recovery of 88%. This is upgrading a head grade of 61.8% to 68. And what that means is that we've crushed the drill core, 60 millimeter drill core, down to 2 millimeter size. We've put it through the limbs machine and upgraded 62% to 68% with a very simple crushing magnetic separation stage. Mass yield of 80%. So these are absolutely outstanding first pass results. In the middle there, I've just put the iron ore price for the 65% iron ore fines, as it was yesterday, at $205 US a ton. So thinking about that, the capital cost for recovering a high-grade iron ore product from the massive and coarse disseminated material, lump and fines categories at Bekisopa, the capital cost is going to be mining, crushing, screening, and magnetic separation. Very, very low cost. And the operating cost for that is going to be in the lower quartile, lower half of the cost curve, and will deliver outstanding high-grade DSO fines products. For completeness, we also did some limbs trials on the disseminated magnetite. This is the lower grade, finer material. This sample is Bekisopa metallurgical test number 11, disseminated magnetite. It's a composite of holes 3, 5, and 6 in the central zone from depths of 37 to 99 meters. So this product, if it was ever to be mined, is 20 plus years away. But it does show that a product grade of 52% can be achieved at an iron ore recovery of 86% from a head grade of 26% iron. Now, for me, as a metallurgist and a processing guy, that is a fantastic first pass result of upgrading from 25% to 52% at 2 millimeter crush size. But again, it's not the focus. It's just for completeness of the results. The going back a slide, the massive and the coarse is what we're looking for, and achieving product grades of 63.4 and 68% iron of high grade DSO fines and lump. I've put in some slides today of the Bekisopa drill core, so you can get an idea of what the drill core looked like before it was upgraded to those high grade products, and put in a comparison to a typical BIF piece of iron ore. So on the left hand side is a massive magnetite grading plus 60% iron. So the dark gray there in that drill core is all magnetite. All right, so this piece of drill core here would be grading 67% iron. The second image there is coarse disseminated magnetite grading around 45%. You can see massive lumps there, sort of almost spherical particles of magnetite. Those particles are 30 and 20 millimeters across. and they are readily upgradable to a high grade plus 65% iron DSO product at a crush size of 2 millimeters. On the first trials we've used on limb. So 2 millimeters is 2,000 microns. All right. On the right-hand side is a drill core of banded iron formation. This is not from Bekisopa. This is from another iron ore province altogether. But it shows the banded iron and the characteristics of the black and white striations, the black being the magnetite, the white being the silica and calcium. This grade's around 30%, 25 to 35% iron. And to recover the magnetite from those thin bands, you need to grind it down using ball mills and the like to 25 to 50 microns to produce an iron concentrate. So looking at this comparison, the massive magnetite and coarse disseminated magnetite from Bekisopa on the left, we can achieve a 65% DSO fines product by crushing to 2 millimeters using conventional crushing and magnetic separation in the dry mode or the wet mode. And our target is to use dry because that's where the technology is today. So that will have a low capital cost and a lower operating cost. The BIF, on the other hand, you need the crushing, the screening, the magnetic separation, the fine grinding equipment, more fine grinding to get down to 25 microns. So significant larger capital cost and higher operating cost because of the power demands to operate all of those ball mills to achieve talcum powder size 25 microns. So that is the difference between Bekisopa's iron mineralization of magnetite versus the typical BIFs that we see in Australia and elsewhere around the world. Also looking at world iron ore products. If you look at the iron ore resources, 70% of the grades in the world grade between 54 and 66%. And that's predominantly the Pilbara with the hematite that we're blessed with in northwestern Australia. So those resources, whether it's at Rio Tinto or Fortescue or BHP or whoever else, their grades in the ground are 44 to 66%. 10% of the world's grades are between 30 and 45% iron, and 20% of the world's resources, and these are for operating mines today, grade between 16 and 35. The average resource grade in Australia, which is therefore the Pilbara, is 58%. And Brazil's average grade, which is Vale, their average grade is 50% iron. So when we see in our drill core lump grades of 67%, that compares to the best in the Pilbara, and we see averages of 44 and 40 throughout the drill core and in the thicknesses of the cross sections that we've shown at 45%. That's not too different to Brazil. But the benefit of Bekisopa is how readily it upgrades to produce a high-grade product. In 2019, the iron ore product grades from around the world, and this is a summary from an article that I've been reading, shows the Pilbara DSO product grades, 41% of those many hundreds of millions of tons that were produced graded 58% product grade of iron. 57% of all of those tons shipped graded 62%, and only 24 was in the category of lump. All the remainder was as fines. In Brazil, they produced two products, 62 and 65% fines, 65% concentrates. And that is after crushing, grinding, and magnetic separation. So for Bekisopa, where we see a resource of in excess of 100 million tons, potentially in excess of 150 million tons, and a product grade of 65% iron DSO fines and some lump, that I think puts us in a very good position relative to the other current producers. We are doing this at a crush size of 2 millimeters. In Brazil, they are having to grind down very fine to get their 62 and 65% iron concentrates. So Bekisopa first drill hole results from drill holes 1 to 8, they're excellent results. The chemical assays are excellent and have delivered significant iron intercepts and cross sections. Cross sections where we've seen true widths of 50 to 150 meter in those holes, and we can see that the iron mineralization is continuing at depth. Therefore, we're confident of delivering a pretty massive resource at the end of this year as we continue on the next phase of drilling. First trials with the limbs to produce product on coarse crushed 2mm composite samples was absolutely outstanding. We saw that this produced up to 68% iron product grades, high iron ore recoveries of 89%, and very practical mass yields of 63%. So what that means is you put in 4 tons or 3 tons of mined material to get out 2 tons of product, which is far better than many operations, and the maximum was 80% recovery of a yield. There's impressive scope for a significant iron ore resource at Bekisopa. We feel just from these first lot of drill results that achieving a resource of greater than 150 million tonnes, certainly 100 million tonnes, is achievable. And what we've known now from these first trial results is that we're able and capable of producing DSO iron ore products after minimal processing of crushing, screening, and magnetic separation. The drill program that we conducted in 2020 because of COVID was done at a distance with our geologist Tony Truelove in Brisbane and myself here in Melbourne. And the team we've put together for geology and drilling in Madagascar has been absolutely exemplary. They've been fabulous in these very trying times, achieving very good results in a very safe manner, an environmental manner over there at Bekisopa. So we're very pleased to continue with them for our next drilling program. So what's next for Akora? We expect the drilling results for drill holes 9, 10 and 11 in the coming weeks from the southern area, and we'll report on those by the end of April. The southern zone, when you look at the field results, look promising because with these 8 holes already, we've been able to do some correlation between the field results for the portable XRF and the images that we've seen and the chemical assay results. So we're looking forward to receiving the results of those 3 drill holes from the south. Currently in Madagascar, there's a 15-day COVID restriction phase in 5 regions, which includes the capital Antananarivo. It's restrictions, as we've experienced here in Melbourne and Sydney at the height of the COVID virus, social distancing, encouraging people to stay at home, and people movement in those 5 areas where the COVID virus has been higher has been restricted. So there's no road transport movement of people, but equipment can move. So it's not a lockdown, it's just restrictions. And even if it went from a restricted phase to a lockdown phase, there are solutions that we can employ to get moving for our next drilling program. As we've said it previously and today again, we're looking to do at least 4,000 meters of drilling in the next campaign. That will start in the middle of May. And there's several reasons why it's been delayed out to the middle of May rather than in April. And that is because of the COVID restrictions and because we've just got these drilling results for holes 1 to 8. That gives us some more time to redefine the drilling locations and depths for the next 4,000 meters of drilling. And that drilling program is designed to deliver an initial resource estimate reportable under JORC guidelines by the end of this year. So thank you very much. Apologies for the initial technical glitches and someone choosing to do some gardening out the front of my house. But the results, I think, speak for themselves. At Bekisopa, we can deliver a high-grade iron ore product of 65% with minimal processing from the drill core results, drill core material that we've produced in 2020. The outlook is for a low capital cost project at Bekisopa because it's very simple processing, conventional mining, crushing, some screening and magnetic separation. We believe we can do that in the dry mode. If we have to do it in the wet mode, that's not an issue because as you know, we can't get to site now because of the wet season, which goes from November through to March. It's actually continued into April this year. So there's plenty of water if we needed to do wet separation, but our preference is to use dry magnetic separation technology. And looking at these results and the continuity of the iron mineralisation at width and depth, we're looking forward to delivering a pretty solid resource at the end of this year. So thank you very much for staying and listening, and I'm really happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. And I think given the little hiccup at the start, we've had a pretty good attendance here today. So that's been good, because I think what you've managed to do here is quite clearly discuss the benefits of these results from what you're seeing. Somebody has asked a question regarding market preference for hematite versus magnetite. I would have thought that that's just the geological setting of the iron ore that you ultimately deliver. Can you perhaps comment on that?
Look, the blast furnace wants to see iron units, so it doesn't actually discriminate whether it's from hematite or goethite or magnetite. So that's just the geological setting. One of the beauties of having a project that's got magnetite is that you can upgrade it readily using magnetic separation technology. The difference also is that because we are seeing this very massive and coarse magnetite, which is quite different, very, very different to the banded iron formations, we can produce a high-grade product, as I've said several times today, at 2 millimeter crushing size. So low capital and low operating costs. So the blast furnace doesn't mind. In a fines product, they can be composited with some concentrate material to make pellets and the like. So there is no difference. Look, at the moment, maybe I should find that out, what percentage of the blast furnace feed and the electric furnace feed is from magnetites, but it's an everyday product. It's being produced at concentrates, particularly in the northern parts of the world, out of Labrador and Canada. The Iron Ore Company of Canada produces their iron from magnetite, grinding down to 20 microns. The Russians, the Kiruna project in Sweden has been running since 1898, producing iron ore for the steel industry from magnetite. And that was 60 years of a big open cut mine, and now is a major underground iron ore mine. So magnetites are around the world. It's just that in Australia, we've been blessed with a very unique situation with the hematites in the Pilbara.
Thanks, Paul. Another question just regarding the drilling program and the funding available to complete that.
Yeah. We, as you all know, and most of you would have contributed to, thank you, we raised $5 million last December, and that attached an option. We have more than enough funds to fund this 4,000 meters of drilling and do all of the analysis and studies and deliver the resource. It's a non-issue. We're not looking to raise capital to complete this 4,000 meters of drilling. One of the pleasing things already this year is, as people have asked for their options to be granted and converted, our first quarter costs were basically covered by the option money that came in. And I would hope and think that as we've got these drilling results and we get the drilling results from drill holes 9 and 10 and get stuck into the drilling, more options would be actioned and deliver us some more funds. And therefore, if we want to increase the drilling program from 4,000 meters to something higher, 5 or 6, to add to the resource, which means that those results won't come until 2022, that's something we can do. The funds are there. It's not an issue. Thank you. Peter, you're on mute. You got another question?
Yeah, sorry, Paul. A question here regarding the potential for a finer crush to uplift the overall Fe content. What would be additional costs over wet limbs?
Yeah, look, a good question, and that's the optimization we need to do. We've been very simple at this stage, just to get a first pass indication, and at a 2 millimeter crush, we're producing 64 and 68% high quality iron products. We will do some work, whether it's with limbs wet or dry is irrelevant. It will be with a magnetic separation technique. We will do some testing at 1.5 millimeters and 1 millimeter, just so we know on the material what the iron recovery and the iron ore product grade is. So we'll get a result that will say, at 2 millimeters, we've got 64, 65% iron recovery. At 1.5, it might be 64 or 5% iron grade. At 1.5, it might actually say we've got 68 and 69% iron grade, and at 1, it might be similar. So the best we can do is 72%. That's pure magnetite with no impurities. So we will do those results, but my gut feel at the minute is that as we do more work on the drill holes for this program and the next, a 2 millimeter crush, 1.5 millimeter crush is the same difference, and we're going to get some very good product grades at those.
Thanks, Paul. And on the impurities, are there any penalties for any deleterious material in the product?
Right across the iron ore companies in the world, there are penalties. There are penalties for moisture, high silica, high alumina, calcium, and the likes, phosphorus. I haven't had the time to go and study these to understand the penalties that might apply. But the thing is that if you're producing a 65% clean DSO fines, the impurity levels, therefore, by nature, are relatively low, because pure magnetite is 72%. So I need to do some more work and understand the silica alumina contents relative to the penalty when the penalties kick in. But I'm not thinking that they're going to be all that significant. And the other way to look at it is, if you're achieving 65% iron and possibly 66, 7 or 8, you get bonus points for the extra iron, which will well and truly outweigh the penalties which might come from alumina, silica or sulfur. Our phosphorus numbers are very good. I think it was, from memory, 0.03. But I need to spend more time looking at that, and we will report on that in the next while. But I think you'll find that the high grade iron ore products that we are producing are going to give us a benefit over and above any penalties that might come from those elements.
And Paul, the last one here, which I think you have covered at the end of the drilling program, what next? But I think you said you'll be moving as quickly as you can to a resource estimate.
Yes, exactly right. So I've got the quotes. I've been back in communication with the geological companies, the companies that provide the camp setup and the food and the cooks and all of those good things, and the drilling contractor as well. So that's all in place. We're waiting for the wet season to finish. It's been later this year than normal by a couple of weeks. And then we will be drilling, and the resource estimate will start to flow by the end of this year.
Terrific. Well, it's been a pretty comprehensive report here on all of those numbers. If there are any further questions, please send them through to us or me at peter@nwrcommunications.com.au. I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to listen today, and I think we're all a lot more educated about where we're tracking. Thank you, Paul, for your time, and we look forward to hearing you next time.